Sarah was different from the other children in her village. While they played in the town square, she yearned for adventure. The dense forest that bordered their small community called to her like a siren song. Every chance she got, Sarah would sneak away from her chores and disappear into the woods. The cool shade of the towering trees was her playground, and the rustling leaves were her companions.
My parents worry about my wanderings, but I can't be contained. I know every trail and hidden glade within miles of the village. The forest holds secrets, and I am determined to uncover them all.
She collected odd-shaped stones, vibrant feathers, and even the occasional arrowhead left behind by long-gone hunters. Sarah's curiosity was insatiable. She'd spend hours watching ants build their hills or trying to spot elusive forest creatures. The other villagers shook their heads at her antics, but Sarah didn't care. She knew there was more to life than the small world of their village.
The forest is my gateway to adventure, and I embrace it with open arms.
As Sarah grew older, her explorations took her deeper into the woods. She learned to navigate by the sun and stars, to find water by listening for streams, and to identify edible plants. The forest became her second home, a place where she felt truly alive. Little did she know that her greatest adventure and her greatest danger was waiting just beyond the next hill. It was a crisp autumn day when Sarah made her fateful discovery. She had ventured further into the forest than ever before, following a deer trail that wound through ancient oaks. The trees here were different, darker and more gnarled. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine, but her curiosity pushed her forward.
What is that? A flash of white through the trees. Could it be?
Sarah blinked, unsure if her eyes were playing tricks on her, but as she crept closer, the shape became clearer. It was a mansion, grand and imposing, rising out of the forest like a ghost. Its white paint was peeling, and vines crawled up its walls. Broken windows stared out like empty eyes, and the front door hung askew on rusted hinges.
The air around the mansion feels different, colder. Are those whispers on the wind? No, that's impossible. I'm alone in the forest, aren't I?
Sarah's heart raced with excitement and a touch of fear. This was the adventure she'd been waiting for her whole life. As she approached the mansion, Sarah noticed strange symbols carved into the trees surrounding it. They looked ancient and mysterious, unlike anything she'd seen in her village. The symbols seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, warning her away. But Sarah had never been one to heed warnings.
With a deep breath, I step onto the overgrown path leading to the mansion's front door.
Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the tarnished brass doorknob. It was cold to the touch, sending a chill through her body. The door creaked open with an ominous groan, revealing a dimly lit foyer. Dust motes danced in the weak sunlight that filtered through grimy windows. Sarah stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the empty space.
The air inside the mansion is stale and musty, carrying the scent of decay and forgotten memories. Cobwebs drape from every corner like ghostly curtains.
Sarah's eyes darted around, taking in the faded grandeur of the entrance hall. A grand staircase curved upwards, its once polished banister now dull and splintered. Portraits lined the walls, their subjects' eyes seeming to follow Sarah as she moved. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, but by what? The house was clearly abandoned, had been for years, yet there was a palpable sense of something, a presence that made the hairs on the back of Sarah's neck stand up.
Despite my growing unease, my curiosity propels me forward. I've come too far to turn back now.
Room after room revealed more decay and abandonment. A dining room with a table still set for a meal never eaten. A music room with a piano, its keys yellowed and silent. Each discovery only deepened the mystery of the mansion.
Who had lived here, and why had they left so suddenly?
As Sarah explored the ground floor, she came upon a set of heavy double doors. Unlike the rest of the house, these seemed well maintained, their wood polished and gleaming. Sarah's heart raced as she pushed them open, revealing a vast library. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined every wall, filled with leather-bound tomes. The air here was different, felt fresher somehow, as if the room existed in its own little world.
I've never seen so many books in one place. The village has a small collection of texts, mostly practical guides and religious works. But these books, they are something else entirely.
Their spines bore titles in languages Sarah didn't recognize, some written in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as she looked at them. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, bathed in a shaft of light from a skylight above. On it rested a single book bound in black leather. Sarah approached it cautiously, drawn by an inexplicable pull.
The book seems to pulse with energy, calling to me. I reach out, my fingers brushing against the cool leather.
As soon as Sarah touched the book, a cold wind whipped through the library. The pages of the other books fluttered, creating a cacophony of whispers. Sarah stumbled back, her heart pounding, but the black book remained still, almost expectant.
With trembling hands, I open it. The pages are filled with more of those strange shifting symbols, and as I stare at them, they begin to make sense.
A chill ran down Sarah's spine as she flipped through the pages of the black book. The symbols danced before her eyes, almost seeming to move of their own accord. She couldn't understand the words, but their meaning seeped into her mind like a dark fog. Tales of ancient powers, forgotten rituals, and beings from beyond the veil of reality.
What is this?
As Sarah delved deeper into the book, the temperature in the library plummeted. Her breath came out in visible puffs, and goosebumps erupted across her skin. The whispers that had been barely audible before grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, filling the air with their urgent murmurings. Suddenly, a gust of wind tore through the library, extinguishing the few lit candles and plunging the room into darkness.
Oh no!
Sarah gasped, slamming the book shut. The whispers crescendoed to a fever pitch, and she could have sworn she heard her name among the unintelligible words. Heart-pounding, Sarah stumbled away from the pedestal. The double doors of the library slammed shut with a resounding boom. Sarah whirled around, panic rising in her chest. She was trapped. The darkness pressed in on her from all sides, thick and oppressive, and in that darkness, something moved. A shadow darker than the blackness around it, taking shape before her eyes. Sarah opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow coalesced into a towering figure, its edges blurred and shifting. It had no discernible features, just an inky blackness that seemed to absorb all light. Sarah's legs trembled, rooted to the spot in terror. The figure loomed over her, radiating an aura of ancient malevolence. This was no ghost, no figment of her imagination. This was something far worse.
I have waited centuries.
A voice like grinding stone filled Sarah's mind, speaking in a language she shouldn't have understood, but somehow did. It spoke of hunger, of centuries of waiting, of a bargain made long ago. The shadow reached out with tendrils of darkness wrapping around Sarah's arms and legs. She tried to struggle, to run, but her body wouldn't respond. The room around them began to warp and twist, reality bending under the weight of the shadow's presence. Books flew from their shelves, swirling in a vortex around Sarah and her captor. The black book on the pedestal burst open, its pages flipping wildly as if caught in a storm.
No, let me go!
Sarah's scream finally tore from her throat, but it was swallowed by the chaos around her. In a final desperate attempt to escape, Sarah closed her eyes and thought of home, of her parents, her village, the forest she loved so much. She felt a tug in her chest, a warmth spreading through her body. The shadow's grip faltered for just a moment, and Sarah seized her chance. With all her might, she wrenched herself free and ran for the library doors. But as she reached for the handle, the world went black. Sarah's parents were the first to notice her absence. As the sun began to set and Sarah hadn't returned from her daily forest excursion, worry set in. They alerted the village elders, and soon a search party was organized. Lanterns were lit, and voices called out Sarah's name as they ventured into the darkening woods. The villagers knew Sarah's usual haunts, the clearings and streams where she liked to explore. But as night fell and their search yielded no results, a sense of unease settled over the group. This was unlike Sarah. She knew these woods better than anyone. If she could hear them calling, she would have responded.
Where could she be?
As the search continued into the night, whispered conversations broke out among the villagers. Some spoke of old legends, of people who had ventured too deep into the forest and never returned. Others dismissed such talk as superstition, but their voices held a tremor of doubt. The forest seemed different tonight, darker and more foreboding. By midnight, the search party had pushed further into the woods than ever before. They found themselves in unfamiliar territory, the trees growing denser and more twisted. An owl's hoot made several people jump, nerves frayed by hours of fruitless searching.
"Did you hear that?"
It was then that one of the younger villagers pointed ahead, his voice shaking.
Look! There's something through the trees!
The search party approached the mansion with caution, their lanterns casting eerie shadows on its weathered facade. Many crossed themselves, muttering prayers under their breath. This place didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it belonged in their forest.
If Sarah had found this place, she would have explored it. She might be inside, hurt or lost.
As they entered the mansion, the group split up to cover more ground. They called Sarah's name, their voices echoing through empty rooms and dusty corridors. But there was no response, just an oppressive silence that seemed to swallow their words.
Sarah's mother found a small footprint in the dust of the foyer. Her heart leapt. Sarah had been here.
The search intensified, fueled by this evidence of Sarah's presence. But as they explored further, things only grew more confusing. Some rooms looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. Others showed signs of recent disturbance. A chair out of place, a book left open, and everywhere that feeling of wrongness persisted, of being watched by unseen eyes.
It was Sarah's father who found the library. The heavy doors swung open at his touch, revealing the vast room beyond. His lantern light fell on the pedestal in the center, where the black book lay open.
As he approached it, a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing his lantern. In the sudden darkness, he could have sworn he heard his daughter's voice calling out for help, but when the others arrived with their lights, the room was empty, and the book on the pedestal had vanished. The villagers regrouped in the library, their faces pale and drawn. No one wanted to voice the fear growing in their hearts. Sarah's mother clutched a hair ribbon she had found caught on a splinter in the doorframe. It was Sarah's beyond a doubt, but where was Sarah herself?
The mansion had been searched top to bottom, with no sign of the missing girl.
As dawn broke, casting weak light through the library's grimy windows, the village elder made a grim announcement. They had done all they could. It was time to return to the village and decide on their next steps.
Sarah's parents protested vehemently, unwilling to leave without their daughter. But exhaustion and fear had taken their toll on the search party. They couldn't stay in this place any longer.
Just as they were about to leave, a young boy tugged on the elder's sleeve. He pointed to the far wall of the library, where a section of the bookshelf seemed to shimmer and waver. As they watched in disbelief, the books seemed to melt away, revealing a hidden passage beyond. A cold draught emanated from the opening, carrying with it the faint sound of whispering voices.
Sarah's father rushed forward, ready to plunge into the passage, but the village elder held him back. Whatever lay beyond that opening, he said, was not of their world. They had neither the knowledge nor the power to face it.
With heavy hearts, the search party left the mansion, carrying with them only Sarah's ribbon and a chilling sense of the unknown. In the days and weeks that followed, Sarah's disappearance became the talk of the village and beyond. The story spread like wildfire, growing and changing with each retelling. Some said Sarah had been spirited away by forest fae. Others claimed she had stumbled upon a portal to another world. And still others whispered of dark forces that had lain dormant in the woods for centuries, awakened by an innocent girl's curiosity.
The mansion quickly gained a reputation as a place of evil. No one from the village would go near it, and travellers were warned to give the area a wide berth.
But that didn't stop the curious and the thrill-seekers from trying to find it. Most returned empty-handed, the mansion seemingly impossible to locate a second time. Those who did find it spoke of strange lights in the windows, of whispers on the wind, and of a girl's laughter echoing through the trees.
Sarah's parents never gave up hope of finding their daughter. They spent every spare moment researching old legends and consulting with anyone who claimed to have knowledge of the supernatural. They became familiar figures in neighboring towns, known for their unwavering determination and the sadness that lingered in their eyes.
As years passed, Sarah's story became a cautionary tale told to children in the village. Don't wander too far into the forest, parents would warn, or you might end up like curious Sarah. But for some, the tale was not a warning, but an invitation to uncover the truth behind the legend, to solve the mystery that had captivated so many. And so the legend of Sarah and the haunted mansion lived on, growing stronger with each passing year. Decades after Sarah's disappearance, the mansion still stood in the depths of the forest, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. Time seemed to have no effect on the structure. It remained as it had been on that fateful day, neither decaying further nor showing signs of habitation. The forest around it had grown wilder, more untamed, as if nature itself was trying to reclaim the land and hide the mansion from prying eyes. But on certain nights, when the moon was full and the air was thick with mist, strange things happened around them.